Well, not only do I do LS swaps, I also work on all my own shit. So I got a Polaris Outlaw 500. It's a 2007 IRS. Just figured I'd show you how to change these CV boots, the inners, and also how to remove the rear carrier bearings. So you want to start off, just rip off your wheels, pull off the wheel nut that's on the end of your hub on your CV axle, pull that all off. There's the axle, comes off that end. Take off your chain, take off the top control arm bolt, just tape it up out of the way. That allows you to pivot this down and pull out the axle. So yeah, you got this all unhooked, and then there's a big snap ring over top of the rubber boot. So the rubber boot will be in here, and this snap ring will be in there. So you just pop that out, flathead screwdriver or whatever, and then you just tug on your rubber boot until it pops out of its seat in there. And then comes the hard part. So you gotta push the axle in a little bit to give you room. And if you can see in there, there's a little groove. There's a snap ring in there, and there's no easy way to get it out. You just gotta get yourself a bunch of these picks. You know, there's a whole bunch of different angles of them, and you just work at it in there until you get it. And then I find I just get one, and I put enough pressure on it to pop it up out of its seat, and then I'll quickly shove another one underneath it. This can take fucking hours sometimes. Seems like. You'd think they would have put a groove in here in one of these slots so that you could have access to pop this out, but they don't. So that's how you get that snap ring out. And then once you get that out, you'll be able to slide the whole CV out right there. Comes out. Those ball bearings might fall out and whatnot, but there's the little snap ring. So that's how you get your CV boots off. And then if you're replacing just the boot, there's another kind of snap ring on the shaft right on the outside there. You got to unclip that, and then this thing, pull all the ball bearings out, and you give it a turn, and it should just pop off. You got to kind of tap it off, but it just kind of locks on, but you just boom, tap it off, and then you'll be able to slide the old boot off. Or if it's ripped, you can just cut it off, but you need to take this all off to slide the new boot on. So now comes the part I got, like, those are my bearings. They're worn right out on the inside. This is my first time doing this, but it's all cleaned out. This actually, you can see the snap ring still in because I opted to just push this axle through all the way, take all the ball bearings out, and then it just slides out without having to pop out that snap ring. I can do that after when it's easier. So it looks like in here, right there, is another snap ring that's holding this half and the other half together. So the other half is probably connected to this inner ring, which houses the CV bearings and all that. And then this outside half probably just comes off once you get that snap ring out of there. And you also gotta, for this side, you'll want to take off your brake caliper. It's two 13 mil bolts right there. So yeah, once that snap ring's out of there, you just, I just gave this a good little pull. It's kind of on splines there. I just gave her a pull and it popped out. So there's that. It's going to allow you access to this side's bearing, and then the other side, probably just going to slide right out, but I don't know. Okay, so getting that hub out of there wasn't as easy as you'd like it to be. So I got myself a torch, after reading PolarisRiders.com forum on how to do this. A couple tips was heat it up and beat it out. I did mine in the machine, so I heated the bearing around there, both sides pretty good, and then just had this, trim the edges, cut it against the hub there, and just beat on it with a pretty good size hammer. Being careful not to hit anything. I was kind of doing it like that. Just fucking bam, beat it out. So it did finally come out, and now I have to get the bearings off. So that should be fun. So I wanted to mention, before I beat this thing out, I pulled off this little rubber ring. It sits right in this groove here. The bearing, it's just on the other side of the bearing. It was around there. I popped it off before I beat that out. Not 100% sure what it's for, but it's there, so it's probably a better idea to pull it off before you smush it through the inner race of the bearing. So it's probably a lot nicer if the bearings stay in the housing, because you can get a screwdriver or a punch from the back side and just beat them out. This one I just beat out from the back side all along. Make sure you do it evenly. It came out. Look at the amount of crap inside there. How I'm gonna get this one off, I'll likely just cut it off with a cutting wheel, because I don't know how else I'll get it off. Just be real careful and then cut through and pop it off. Well, I did end up getting that bearing off. Well, wasn't easy, but first thing I did was I took a cutting disc and I cut that one, the outside on both sides. It just fell out, the inside fell out, and then the inner race was left on the shaft. And I just heated it up again with the torch real good. I had a punch and just tapped it all the way around the outside. I got it to move a little bit, and I just worked it until it came off. Once it gets into the middle, it has to go over the other bearing thing as well, so I didn't want to have to beat it over that. So what I did is I just cut a groove in it again with the cutting disc while it was in the middle. I didn't cut all the way through because you don't want to end up putting any marks in your hub there. So you just put a nice deep cut in there, and then you just take your chisel and a hammer and give her a real good blow. Make sure it's against something on the other side, and it usually will crack open. So once I did that, it just slid off. So now all you got to do is clean everything up real good and put it back together. Here's the new bearings that are gonna go in. I got mine from Boss Bearing, pretty cheap stuff. Again, these are China bearings, but like I said, you can get bearings and stuff from that Boss Bearing place pretty cheap, especially if you're in Canada. They charge an arm and a leg out here for quad parts, but if you go on eBay or even to their site, there's another one called All Balls Racing or something. It's all bearings and shit. Pretty cheap.